in Delos. The island of Delos is the birthplace of Apollo. And we were there and heard the launch, sitting, the only boat there.
Amazing.
He said, there's Apollo's birthplace. Isn't that amazing?
Apollo on the ground and Apollo in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll let you get started. I'll be right out here. So, and you don't need any water or anything?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, thanks a lot. Okay, just so our editor knows who you are, can you tell us your full name and where you were born?
Yeah. Thomas Victor Jones, born in Pomona, California.
Can you tell me who was John Myers?
Well, John was just a great person. And it's very hard to describe somebody like this because he just was that way. And I don't know anybody that didn't like him, although I don't think he tried to be liked. He just naturally was likable. I would trust him completely. He's a person that made judgment about people, but he didn't advertise that judgment. He didn't talk negative about anybody. But again, you knew that people that were his friend were a friend for life. I think he would cut you a lot of slack if you were a friend. You could make a mistake or two.
Do you remember the first time you met him?
I cannot precisely identify, but I came to Northrop in August of 1953, and I met Johnny very quickly after I arrived. So.
Now he was in the business part or in test pilot part?
Well, with Johnny, I never quite understood he was capable of being in the business part, but he was much more interested in piloting the airplanes. But he's good. He's a smart guy. He was at that time, I think he was head of sales and marketing, and also had this is the part that I'm not sure about. That's why I don't like to say when I don't know.
That's fine, we don't have to talk about that.
What?
We can just talk about what you feel comfortable.
I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, but he became one of the people that was with Northrop that I immediately, more than liked, I learned to trust.
Now, he was a good friend with Jack Northrop.
Oh yes.
What kind of guy was Jack Northrop?
Well, I never worked for Jack Northrop because I think he retired in 1949, I think it was. And I didn't come until 53. But I got to know Jack Northrop. And I liked him a lot.
Now you became a good friend of John Myers?
Yes, we naturally, we became friends, yes.
If you were going to describe John Myers in just a couple words, what words would you choose?
First of all, you'd say he's a nice man. He had a lot of curiosity about things. He usually pursued that, his curiosity in finding out about that. He was exceedingly interested in airplanes. He just liked everything about them. And as I say, he flew them, and he's had some pretty narrow escapes, and he's crashed a few. And in all those cases, though, he handled himself with a lot of courage. You liked him. He's a good human being. Had all the characteristics that you think a good human being should have. And he was a lot of fun. He enjoyed what he was doing. He would joke about it. And, well, he was, you say this about some people, one of a kind. Well, John was one of a kind. I can't give you anyone else who was like Johnny Myers.
They say that he had a good sense of humor.
Oh yes, very good sense of humor. He had to have. some of the stuff he got into, and very dangerous things. But he never dramatized anything.
Now, what kind of things did you do with John over the years? Do you have any special memories?
Well, we were together quite a bit. I mean, I've been up to his ranch with him and several times, and we belong to a club that meets once a month for 10 months, and we're a group of people from Los Angeles called the Sunset Club, and that meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to me, that club, and.
How was his relationship with his wife?
Well, I think it was fine. She was beautiful. And I think that, in fact, he used to laugh because I think she was on the board of directors of Bank of America. And when they'd take a trip, he would go as a spouse. He always laughed about that. I'm a spouse. And she was beautiful. She was a good friend of my wife. And she was a great person. And John was clearly in love with her.
He took it hard after she passed.
Yeah, well, I think so, yes.
And they say, I heard he's been called a gentleman.
Very much so. Very much a gentleman. Under all circumstances, he's the kind of person that somebody drops something, he'll probably pick it up.
He cared about other people.
Very much so. He was conscious of other people. Always was, and he saw things that other people don't. He was a true gentleman, yes, indeed.
What kind of things would he do up at the ranch?
Oh, he did the things that a rancher needs to do. He had a lot of property up there, and he loved it. It's in the foothills of the Sierra Mountains, and yes, he would. What they say, he had cattle. And he concerned himself with cattle, buying and selling and that. But more than anything, he just loved the ranch. And it was a beautiful ranch. It's one of the few places in California that really has had great, what they call tidal pools. You've heard of what they are?
Yes.
It's probably not a tidal pool. It's another word for it. But where the rain will stay. But it'll eventually dry up. But around those things. They occur only in the foothills of the Sierras. And they're just beautiful. The wildflowers are marvelous.
I lived in Fresno for years, that hard pan, and you can set the water cells on top of it, right?
It does, and it makes little pools. What did they call those? It wasn't tidal. Tidal obviously comes from the ocean.
Yeah, I can't think of the name. I think it starts with D. Like, I can't think of the name right now. But they said that John Myers had integrity.
Yes, he had integrity. Well, I don't think he would ever do anything other than what he thought was accurate and proper. But he wasn't a shrinking violet in any way.
He was a successful businessman, so he had some good instincts about
Oh, of course he did. Yeah, he made money out of, well, he had that Pacific Air Motive and did a very good job at that. And everything he did was done well. Even the buildings and things, that offices he had, were done tastefully, and although that wasn't his objective, he does it for what he likes, and he likes straightforward things. A lot of airplanes around. Always had pictures of airplanes.
He loved aviation.
Oh, of course, he had that one.
Now, what did he do? What did that company do? That Pacific company do? Do you remember?
Pacific Air Motive, that's again what I hate to say, because they did a lot of stuff and they were fairly major, and you'll have to get that from somebody else.
Do you know anybody I should talk to about that, or?
I'll just try to think about who it would be.
Was John the type of guy that did talk about the old days much to you?
Yeah, he would. If there was something especially humorous, he'd tell about an event that occurred.
Did you fly with them?
I flew with him, yes. I
No.
might say, here's a little anecdote, maybe interesting about, well, John died when he was it 96 or 7? 6? 96. Well, about 4 years before he died, we would go to a ranch in Wyoming called the A Ranch. It's up at about 7,500 feet altitude, had a strip, a very simple strip in those hills, and Johnny said, well, why don't you fly up with me? I said, okay, let's go. Because we would go there for about a week at a time. And a group of us in aviation people, all of them. And my wife heard about it and said, Tom, John is a great pilot and he's a great friend, but he's also 90 some odd years old. So I think I'm going to divorce you if you fly up without a co-pilot. And so I told Johnny, and he says, well, sure, I'd get one of our guys to come along. And he did. And it happened to be a pretty rough day. One of those mountains with the wind blowing, it can be pretty rough and everything. But we landed, and as we went to the ranch house, where there were other aviation people there, Conquistadores do Cielo, the name of the organization. And as I walk in, here's Russ Meyer, who's the president of Cessna. And we were flying in Johnny had a Cessna Citation 10, and Myers in the front of the room said, Tom, for God's sakes, I spent years established the name, and it's a single pilot airplane. Now, how in the hell are you? I thought that was so funny. We all laughed about it.
Tell us about Gus.
Well, Gus was his dog. And then Gus would take him everywhere he went. And Gus would get into that airplane and sit right next to John, in between. And he a lot of times he wouldn't tell people that Gus was the dog, but he'd say, yes, I've got a co-pilot. His name is Gus.
Now, John liked fast boats as well?
Well, he had I know he had a boat on Big Bear Lake. It goes back many years. I don't know how old that is, but I think his father built that house. And John loved it, and he would go up there, and I never went up there with Johnny, but he talked about it a lot, and I know he loved it.
He was the type of guy that really liked life?
Very much so. As I say, he was, he never lacked curiosity. He always had it. And he appreciated things. And he lets you know when he appreciated them. That's one of the things that made John so pleasant to everybody. If he saw something that looked nice and good, he'd compliment the person. Gee, this is fantastic. This is good. That's the kind of guy he was. You like to be around him.
They say that 5 years from now you'll be the same person except for the books you read and the people you meet. What do you think changed your life when you met John Myers? Did you learn anything from him?
Probably a lot. Probably a lot. Yes. Well, one thing I would say, I appreciate him as a man, very much so.